Hello and welcome to rounds 13 to 16 of the 2019 GT Cup Championship, coming to you from the world famous Silverstone GP circuit. Lots of new faces in the paddock this weekend, which means lots of new cars on the grid, and it's a packed one. One of those new teams joining the championship this weekend is Balfe Motorsport, who've brought with them two McLarens, swelling the total number to 4. I caught up with team manager Chris Moore. Chris, lovely to see you here at Silverstone. Now, you've brought two McLarens along this weekend, haven't you?
Yes, we have, yeah. We've brought two new drivers who's just come straight out of the McLaren Pure Series. McLaren have done a very good job bringing these drivers along, and they're just exploring the next step in race development, really. Thought GT Cup was a good place to try and have a go. It's a bit different to what they used to. There's different types of cars out there, there's different classes, there's different speeds of cars coming past, so it's been a steep learning curve for them. Yeah. But I think the lap times have shown how well McLaren have brought them along, really. If you look at the amount of experience they've had and how competitive they've been, it's been pretty good.
And from the point of view of support, I understand that there's really good support from McLaren here this weekend.
Yeah, so now there's a few of them on the grids. There's 4 cars here, I believe. Yeah, we've got all the support, and we get the driver coaches from McLaren that come with each driver, which is good. Saves us a job on telling these drivers where they need to improve. We've now got the spares truck, which is now going to be at every round, I believe, so it's good to have the spares there. I'm not so sure the drivers, but when they know there's a spares truck there, I think it makes them push a little bit harder because they know there's a plan B. But yeah, it's good. So it's all the support we need to be going racing.
The other new McLaren joining us this weekend is from WDC Racing, this beauty of a car. And I'm joined by Matt and Rob, who are driving this weekend. So I understand this is your first ever time doing GT Cup Championship, is that right?
Yes, we're delighted to come and join the championship this weekend, and we've had a good weekend so far. A few problems with the car in testing apart from the weather on Friday, and then we've had a really good time so far. Looking forward to today.
Yeah. What was the reason for deciding to come and join GT Cup Championship?
A week ago we figured we'd go and look at what racing was on, and that was it. Simple as that.
Wow, okay. And from your experience so far, how have you found it?
That's great. Everybody's been really friendly, very welcoming. We had some problems with the car. McLaren have been very good in support, and there are so the race organisers when we've been shuffling things around with drivers because we had a chat with an injury. So everyone's been very flexible, welcoming, and we've had some good racing. It's been close racing.
Will we be seeing you again maybe this year?
Yeah, 100% we're coming back. Yeah, it's nice, clean racing, good level of competition. We pushed hard and obviously got a good result, and we want to do some more of that.
Well, Richard Chamberlain has put his Porsche on pole position, but only by 0.034 of a second from John Searle in his Huracan. James Webb, James Jennings on row 2, Graham Tilley, Bob Berridge, Dan Dezil, Paul Hogarth, Nigel Musto and Raki Christopher on row 5. 6th row is Richard Guy and Gary Redman in a pair of Ferraris, with a pair of McLarens on row 7 with Matt LeBreton and Nick Moss. Frank Mortensen, Chris Murphy, the championship leaders John Whitehouse and then Brendan Uribe alongside them. Row 10 is Brent Millage and Steve Burt. 11th row, Mal Sanford and Ivan Milatonovic, James Simons, Nick Scott Dickinson, and on the 13th row, Simon Orange and David Frankland. So we get ourselves ready for this, the first sprint race of the weekend on this GP circuit at Silverstone. And Richard Chamberlain, you can see he's making sure he's going to get the inside line towards this first corner down at Copse. He wants to make this pole position count, but it looks Seamus Jennings already posturing to try and make a move off the start, but he's tucked himself back in and he's probably more aware of that blue Lamborghini of James Webb on the inside of him now. Richard Chamberlain's going to want to do the best he can. Beautiful colours there with Gary Redman and Matt LeBreton in the Ferrari and McLaren respectively. But as we come down towards Maggots and Beckett's, already Richard Chamberlain trying to stretch his legs, but look at the speed that Huracan of John Searle takes through this complex. Absolutely lightning quick. There's Graham Tilley in his new Nissan GTR, the Nismo GTR, and he's still getting used to it. Now he's going to be pleased he's in the dry at the very least. And there's Frank Mortensen, dad of the two Mortensens, piloting the same car this weekend, and he's the first one out here. Down towards Stowe we go. The pace of the Hanger Straight is absolutely lightning in these GT cars. We've got the number 16 car there of Paul Hogarth under pressure from Nigel Mustoe in the sister Nismo GTR. It's good to see both of them on the field here. Graham Tilley's already putting pressure on James Webb. Remember, that is actually a GTC car just ahead of him with the GTO of Graham Tilley, so it's a real David and Goliath going on there. 27, Laki Christoforu, going great guns, as we see so often, trying to put some pressure there on the Richard Guy black and white Ferrari. The leaders are together, and it looks like up the inside, yes, John Seale's made a move as he goes in towards, that looks to me it's at the loop. No, it's just before the loop, my apologies, it's at Village. Now we're into the loop, and you can see that Richard Chamberlain's looking towards the inside there. He didn't quite manage to get the noise pedal down, but a great move by John Seale. He saw the gap and he dived straight up the inside. As there is Nigel Mustoe in that sister car, he'll be handing that over to Craig Dolby in the pit stop race later. What a pairing that is. Seamus Jennings, fair play. He's managed to stick on the back of this pair of battling GTO cars. It is a GTO car as well, that number 33, with a better luck than we had last time out at Snetterton when they had to make their way all the way down to Spa just to get a spare part to get out on circuit. And a massive round of applause that they got that car out. This time he'll be hoping for easy. Now up the inside goes Richard Chamberlain. He's made the move at Copse, but he's ran wide and John Seale's followed him. In fact, John Seale's gone even further. Get your passport out, get back on circuit. Goodness me, that was risky from both of them. But Seamus Jennings is trying to take advantage of this. He's managed to move past one, John Seale down to third, but he couldn't quite get past the Porsche of Richard Chamberlain that time round. But my goodness, that was close. A good move. It was nothing wrong. There was no pushing each other, but you often get it where if the leader goes out wide, the second place car can then actually follow it inadvertently out the same way. Here comes John Seale on the power now, down Hanger Straight towards Stowe. Has he managed to power past Seamus? Yes, he has. So Jennings in that 33 Porsche down to third place now, up to second again goes John Seale, and he's now going to set about trying to close back in on that bright orange Porsche 935 of Richard Chamberlain. These two GTO cars have been doing battle basically season long, and it's been an incredible sight to watch them doing it. John Seale, remember, is the AM in that pair as well, and he's doing an absolutely sterling job, as he so often does. Fourth place there for Graham Tilley. Fifth now is Bob Berridge in the Volvo. What a sight that Volvo is. It is allegedly a Volvo S60, but it's kind of boosted somewhat, that, isn't it? It obviously isn't what we are used to seeing on the road. There is Frank Mortensen under pressure from Nick Moss, and that's the first time we've seen Nick Moss. And there's Brendan Arib in the sister car, Balf Motorsport, here running both of these two drivers. Oh, look at this. Talk about getting used to a car. Both of them to some extent, because the Webb brothers have been getting used to this Lamborghini after their BMW. But even newer to the driver is the Dan Dezil Ferrari 488 this time round. Look at this battle. Matt Le Breton with the championship leaders. John Whitehouse at the wheel at the moment, and Chris Murphy trying to make a move. That's actually compromising, which means Brendan Arib has managed to get past him, so it was darned if you do, darned if you don't, but he's got to get involved. Talking about getting involved, look at this. This is Dan Dezil trying to make a move. This is for the GTC lead, and round the outside onto the start-finish straight. Is he going to manage to power his way through by the time he gets towards Copse? The 19 Ferrari, yes he is, so that is the GTC lead changed. Dan Dezil, kind of a duck to water in this Ferrari 488. He's thoroughly enjoying it and just making that thing sing. Both of these guys are, the Webbs and the Dezils, really make their respective cars sing dramatically, getting involved with GTO cars, even though they are GTC, i.e. challenge cars, whether that's the Ferrari Challenge or the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And at the moment, it's Dan Dezil that's got the nod. On to the last lap we go, and there is Nick Moss. Nick Moss, who is, of course, leading GTH at the moment, and right behind him is Frank Sanderson, who's leading GTB. They don't care they're in different groups. They're still fighting anyway, but both of them doing fantastically well. The Sandersons, first time over here. Look at this. All of a sudden, Dan Dezil is actually challenging the GTO car. I said that they'd get involved, and no sooner is he dispatched with James Webb that he's up there fighting with Seamus Jennings. Seamus is being forced tight, which is going to push him wide on the outside. Noise pedal applied, and through goes Dan Dezil. An absolutely cracking move that. He set that up probably 2 corners before we even got there. I think that was into the loop, wasn't it? As here comes our leader for the final time through to take the checkered flag goes Richard Chamberlain. A fantastic win there for Richard. He's going to be delighted, hence the hand outside of it. He had to fight hard, as did John Seal, to get that second place. The Titans having their cracking tussle yet again. So here are your victors. Richard Chamberlain winning GTO and outright from John Seal. Graham Tilley, a great third place in GTO. Dan Dezil takes GTC in fourth place with Seamus Jennings, James Webb, Paul Hogarth, Richard Guy, Nigel Mustle and Laki Christoforu takes 10th place. In 11th, it is the Gary Redman Ferrari ahead of Sander Mortensen, who takes the GTB honours. GTH taken by Nick Moss ahead of Brendan Reed, Matt Le Breton, John Whitehouse, Chris Murphy, Steve Burt, David Frankland, and GTA honours taken by Ivan Milatonovic. James Simons, Mal Samford, 23rd was Nick Scott Dickinson, which gives him second in GTA, and your final finisher was Simon Orange in the Team Hard. Absolutely delighted drivers down there as they get themselves up onto the podium. What a fantastic race. So here we go, it's time for the pit stop race now. 50 minutes with a pit stop. Driver changes for many of them. Others just have to be patient as they sit there. Richard Chamberlain and John Seal on the front row again, with Graham Tilley and Bob Berridge on row 2. Graham Dezil, Seamus Jennings on the third row. James Webb, Paul Hogarth, Nigel Mustle, Laki Christoforu, Richard Guy and Gary Redman on the 6th row. Row 7, Nick Moss and Frank Mortensen. Steve Ruston and Chris Murphy on the 8th row. Rob Young, Brendan Arib, Brent Millage and Steve Burt on the 10th row. Row 11 sees Simon Orange start the car and David Franklin alongside him. Row 12, Ivan Milatonovic and James Simons, Mal Samford and Nick Scott Dickinson on the 13th row. So we get the cars making their way round behind the safety car as the safety car peels into the pits and leaves the battle to commence. And Richard Chamberlain to try and make sure he commands the start of this race again, as he did in the sprint race from that pole position. He's going to have the inside line as they head towards Copse, lining up 2 by 2 nice and cleanly for now anyway, at least, as we come down towards the lights. And out go the lights and off goes Richard Chamberlain, and he does manage to get an absolute flyer in that bright orange Porsche again, with the equally bright green Lamborghini Huracan of John Seal just behind him. And the Ferrari's crowding Nigel Mustle then in his Nissan GTR. As you can see, there's a whole horde of them just behind him as well. Look at that. Graham Tilley is certainly getting more and more comfortable in that Nissan GTR, the TechServe car. And Graham Dezil in that Ferrari 488 equally getting comfortable in that new car. Only the second meeting for those guys. Looks like Seamus Jennings has dropped down to 4th at the moment. And the teammates in the Ferrari sat side by side there. Seamus Jennings looks like he's dropping backwards in that GTO group number 33 Porsche. I hope that's not another big issue for them after the trials and tribulations they had at Snetterton, and a great opening race in the sprint race. Out front, it is these two. Yet again, a common sight that we see going at it. Absolutely fantastic sight. And it's Richard Chamberlain that has the nod at the moment. Graham Tilley sat there in 3rd place with Graham Dezil closing in on him. Nigel Mustle just ran a little bit wide there, so through goes the 27 Ferrari of Laki Christoforu. That is a GTC passing the GTO, but we see it all the time. They don't care. They get involved with each other. And here we go down towards, surely not, John Seal going to do it into Village again. That is definitely his favourite place. 2 races in a row. He's dived up the inside of Richard Chamberlain, heading into Village. Now into the loop. It's where Richard Chamberlain tries to come back at him. He's trying to do it again, but he can't quite get the power down sufficiently to get alongside. This is sort of a GTB filling in the sandwich between the two GTH McLarens there. Championship leaders, number 44 there, started by Steve Ruston this time. Sat a bit further back. Nick Moss doing a great job in his first weekend here in GT Cup. Oh, and Frank Mortensen was looking up the inside there of Nick Moss, but thought better of it. Some work to be done there by James Webb. He's surprisingly far down, isn't he? But he'll get through. And look at these two going at it again. Oh, and that was just pushed a little bit wide there by John Seal. But Richard Chamberlain couldn't quite do anything about it. He's got a good line onto the start-finish straight, down towards Copse. Looking one way, looking the next, towards the inside again. He did that last time. Not this race. He's not going to do it, though. He sits there, tucks up behind John Seal again in that Lamborghini Huracan. Graham Tilley licking his lips going, come on guys, let me mop up the pieces here somewhat, as he gets more and more comfortable with that beast of a car. And still the battle rages, and it's James Webb now trying to make up a place, get past Frank Mortensen onto the start finish wall, and he just had to jink towards the right there. Wasn't sure if he'd been seen as he's recovering those places. Through he goes, past Nick Moss as well in that white number 25 McLaren 570S. And oh, look at this, the leaders are side by side. Richard Chamberlain's going to have the outside line as he gets down towards Stowe. It can't make that count there, and he has to throw the anchors out the back a little bit more than John Seal by the looks of it as they went round Stowe, and so he tucks himself back into second. James Simons at the wheel of the Lotus Evora. He's piloting it on his own this weekend, as is Ivan there in the number 66 car, and Milutinovic is kind of taken quite well to this one, to be fair, in that GTA car, leading the way in GTA again. And look at this GTO battle at the front, absolutely raging still. Richard Chamberlain trying to find a way, whether it's on the brakes, whether it's on the power as he exits. Strengths and weaknesses in different places, probably between both the cars and the drivers, to be fair. But here they come down towards us, and it's in towards Brooklands, and the left-hander now. Richard Chamberlain's going to have the inside bit of grass there as he goes in towards the tight right-hander, or tightening right-hander of Luffield in reality, and he's done it. What a fantastic move. He just kicked up the grass a little bit there, but he knew what he was going to do, round the outside of Brooklands to have the inside line. Oh no, and there's Frank Mortensen's made contacts in the number 3, the Marcus Mantis. Thankfully that doesn't look particularly bad damage, but it's bad enough that he can't get moving. Out comes the safety car. The field is bunched back up again. At the moment we've not got quite the leaders of the overall race as they make their way past the stricken Top Cats Racing Marcus Mantis. But here we go, we're going to get the race back underway again. Richard Chamberlain's got to do it all over again as they come towards the green flag, and off he goes. Graham Tilley's got a cracking restart. Look at that, he's glued to the back of John Seal as the back markers are kind of moving out of the way. One of the Aston Martins, that's Mal Sanford, doing a good job in number 10 there to stay out of the way of the faster cars coming through. The whole clutch, is that what we call a plural of Ferraris? We'll go with that for now, but he let them pass nicely there, and through the very fast Maggots and Beckett's they go, and Graham Tilley sticking with the lead too, even though he's been enjoying having the grandstand seat of the fight. He's basically making sure he's with him. That was Paul Hogarth, I think, that sat there challenging a little bit further back. Oh, and we've got a pair of McLarens there, and that's at the moment that's going to be the number 17 car, Rob Young, that's behind the wheel of that one at the moment. He'll hand over to Matt Le Breton later. Still, James Webb trying to make up those positions again. His next target is Nigel Mustel. Into the pits now. We've got the pit stops taking place. Richard Chamberlain, of course, is going to be doing the whole race on his own, but in he peels. And John Seal's come with him. Now, this is interesting because John Seal will be handing over to Jamie Stanley today. It's Marcus Clutton behind the wheel tomorrow. And that's going to change the dynamic. That number 12 car, that's going to be interesting. Steve Burt handing over to the pro, Adam Hatfield. Oh, and there's nearly a little bit of contact as Richard Chamberlain was released, as Ross Wiley now at the wheel of that black and white Ferrari, the number 83 car. So that's one heck of a pro at the wheel of that one now as well. In comes number 19 as well, so that is going to be Dan DeZio, I believe, at the wheel of that one. Graham Tilley comes in, he's going to be doing it. This John Whitehouse going to take over from Steve Ruston. They arrive here as the championship leaders. They want to make sure they're going to get the utmost side by side, or maybe an optical illusion, but it certainly looked like they were side by side for the GTO heavyweights again. And it's Richard Chamberlain that's got the nod this time round, and through the very fast section, and then going to break a little bit more as you get towards the sort of the tightening chapel onto Hanger Straight. And in comes Rob Young handing over to Matt Le Breton. The 79 car is now Callum Jenkins going to be at the wheel of that one. Oh, and John Seal's got a good run now. He's going to be on the outside though. This is at the loop, and this is Jamie Stanley, and he's done it. So his teammate John Seal loved the corner before that one, which was Village, but Jamie Stanley, he did it, sort of did the old switcheroo in reality, didn't he, as he got towards the loop there. And here, this is a group battle actually. This is Adam Hatfield now at the wheel of the number 12 Aston Martin, the Whitebridge Motorsport, up behind the Balfe Motorsport run McLaren of Nick Moss. There's number 27 Adam Carroll at the wheel of that car now, taking it over from Lucky Cristoforu, trying to get the GTC honours. That was power slide in the Ferrari as he manages to power his way past number 66 Ivan Milutinovic, and he did a great job. And here comes Adam Hatfield trying to down towards Stowe. He's going to be on the outside there of Nick Moss, surely not. Is he going to try the old switcheroo? That's brilliant by Nick Moss. He's just parked that on the apex, so there was no switcheroo on for Adam Hatfield. Down they come. Oh, and again, they're still going through the veil. In towards Club they come. Nick Moss doing a cracking job to try and hold on to. Judging from, I think I saw Chris Murphy up ahead. This is second and third in GTH as it stands at the moment. That Whitebridge Motorsport, Aston Martin looks beautiful in those colours. Up they go past the wing. Yeah, there's Chris Murphy. And in fact, actually, ahead of them at the moment looks like Brendan Arib. I don't know whether he's pitted yet or not, the number 24 Balfe Motorsport McLaren. As these pit stops are sort of working themselves out, they're trying to keep abreast of everything as it happens. And Adam Hatfield's not. He's just got his pedal to the metal and he's trying to find a way. Round the loop he goes and he gets on the power as he exits towards Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Is he going to be able to make a move? None of them. In fact, the McLaren got a better run through there. This is for GTC honours. This at the moment is Ross Wiley in number 83, the black and white Ferrari 488, just holding up. Was there a little bit of contact there? Adam Carroll was able to come out of that corner a bit quicker. We saw it early when he power slided. And we've lost Richard Chamberlain, so it is Jamie Stanley all on his own out the front by a country mile now onto his final tour of this GP circuit. He goes, and we've got a spin there. Nick Moss has spun it as they come out of Club, and in fact, is that Chris? It is. That's Chris Murphy, last year's champion. He was leading GTH at that time, and I don't know whether they've spun in sympathy. Oh, they're not giving each other much space there, are they? And they're still together as the GTC leaders are now having to split side by side, trying to find a way. The backmarker can't just disappear. Nick tries his best to, but he can't. And through has gone Adam Carroll into the lead of GTC. I know that the whole crew are watching this, teammates as they are, in the garage, trying to cheer their respective driver on, but Adam Carroll is going to certainly leave his teammate Lucky Christopher the happiest there, as we see Matt LeBreton trying to keep the number 21 car behind him of Josh Jackson at the wheel of that one now. He'll have taken over as it stands at the moment, but here we go. Jamie Stanley now at the wheel of that one, trying to just basically, by the looks of it, win this race in the slowest possible time. He's making sure that the clock ticks down as he comes towards the checkered flag, doesn't have to do an extra tour. There he goes, takes the checkered flag. A fantastic victory there for John Searle and Jamie Stanley again in GTO. Nigel Musto and Craig Dolby came home in second place. A great fight through for them. Lucky Christopher and Adam Carroll, number 27, take the GTC honours ahead of Richard Guy and Ross Wiley in 83. In GTH goes to the 10th car, number 12, Steve Burt and Adam Hatfield. Great fight through the field there. In 15th place is your GTB winner, which is the number 17 car of Matt LeBreton and Rob Young in their first time out in GT Cup. And GTA goes the way of Ivan Milutinovic in his first weekend as well in his Porsche Cayman, number 66. A fantastic race from everybody, and those that didn't finish, they've got overnight to get everything sorted again before we do it all again tomorrow with a sprint and another pit stop race. No wonder they look so happy up on that podium.
Another of the new teams joining us this weekend is a name that's synonymous with GT racing. They are all about Ferrari. They are AF Course. And earlier on, I had a chat to the drivers of car number 18. Gary, Fulvio, nice to have you here this weekend. So give us a little bit of background, because this is the first time we've spoken to you.
Yeah, so Gary here is racing the Ferrari Challenge UK. The next round is at Silverstone on the GP circuit, so we thought this would be a prime opportunity to come and test the car and get Gary some additional race experience, because it is just his first year racing.
Wow, how are you finding it?
Yeah, no, it's good fun. So, yeah, doing the Ferrari UK Challenge, and it's my 50th year of life. I said, right, I'm going to stop doing track days and do some proper racing, and yeah, it's good fun. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So how have you found this weekend then? How are you finding GT Cup?
Really, really good. Really impressed, actually. And surprisingly impressed as well with how well organised it is, the timings, the hospitality, the cars, the teams, everybody around it. Yeah, no, it's really, really, really good. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. And how's the racing been?
Yeah, racing's been really good actually. I competed in a couple of rounds last year. I think the grid in this class wasn't quite so big. With the Ferrari Challenge round being the next round here, there's a few extra 488s, so it's made for quite a good race yesterday actually. We had a really good battle towards the end.
Yeah. So how's it been so far? Because you've only qualified so far today, so how's it been?
Qualifying didn't go too well for me today. When I went out, I had a buckled wheel. so we had to come back in. So probably didn't get enough track time. So in our class, I've come last, but not too far off the time, and we can make it up in the race. So no, looking forward to getting back out there and getting on with it.
22 cars lining up behind me on the grid for the second sprint here at Silverstone. The front row dominated by GTOs, but it's the Lamborghini number 55 of John Seal on pole. Let's go racing.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. John Seal is indeed on pole position, but this time he's got Graham Tilley for company in that number 6 Nissan GTR. Tom Webb pilots the Team Webb Lamborghini Huracan with Dan Dezil alongside him. Seamus Jennings and Bob Berridge on row 3. Should have been Richard Chamberlain, but mechanical problems have put him out for the weekend now. And Lucky Christopher, therefore, all on his own on row 4. Richard Guy, Gary Redmond, Sander Mortensen and Nick Moss on the 6th row. Rob Young, Josh Jackson, Nigel Mustall and Steve Ruston, Brendan Arib, Chris Murphy, and on the 10th row, Brent Millage and Callum Jenkins. Row 11, we see David Frankland and Ivan Milatonovic, Steve Burt and James Simons. And on the 13th row, it's Mal Samford. We should have had this race underway, but sadly a red flag straight away means that we call it to a halt. An incident on the first corner puts out 3 cars. Dan Dezil, Richard Guy in 83 and Gary Edmonds number 18 Ferrari out of this race. So they've lined back up again and we have the gaps on the grid sadly, but we're going racing anyway. And John Seal's going to be determined to keep that big Nissan Nismo behind him as much as he can, but that GTR is so quick. And Graham Tilley's getting more and more comfortable in it. Oh, and it looked like Tom Webb's having to go on a bit of contact there. It looks like Seamus Jennings just bumped a little bit into Bob Berridge, or maybe the other way round. I couldn't tell which way round it was, but thankfully both of them okay and carry on down in towards the very rapid Maggots and Beckett's. They go and sweep him from one side of the screen to the other. Just really does do it justice, doesn't it, that section of the circuit in these beautiful GT cars. Seamus Jennings there, number 33 in that GTO Porsche, trying to come back at Bob Berridge. Berridge was, I think, almost caught beneath the GTC car of Tom Webb for a second there, but the number 13 car stayed on the right side of the circuit, or his right, and goes through those Bob Berridge and sweeps through. I thought for a minute he was going to just swipe the nose of Seamus Jennings. There's Sander Mortensen, the son of the Mortensens, at the wheel of that Marcus Mantis this time, and he's trying to put a move on Rob Young in that number 17 McLaren. Into club we go for the first time, and John Seal's already stretching his legs at the front of this pack, isn't he? Graham Tilley just sort of falling back at the moment into the clutches of that ridiculously fast Volvo S60. It's such a good car when it goes well. Oh, and Nigel Mustall's coming back through the field. It looks like he got sort of compromised in with the sort of lower group in cars in that opening foray, but he's scything his way through the field rather quickly, to say the least. Seamus Jennings has now got past Tom Webb as well, so that is GTO's taking up the top 4 position. GTC being led there by Tom Webb, but not far behind is Lucky Christopher in that number 27 car, so he's going to be trying to reel in that bright blue Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo car of Tom Webb. Remember, it's his brother at the wheel yesterday. Graham Tilley in that Texas Nismo GTR, he's closed in on the leader, John Seal. I said that John Seal had stretched his legs. Oh, and look at that, we've seen it from the get-go. The battle in 3rd and 4th between Bob Berridge in that Volvo and Seamus Jennings in the number 33 Porsche, and the GTC leader sort of getting into no man's land, but I don't think he'll be too worried. He can get more seat time, get used to it in the dry. I think he was telling me it's the first time that he's managed to race this one in the dry this year. Well, full stop therefore, because it's new to them. So he's not being pressurised by Lucky Christopher at the moment. You can see the lights just in the distance there was the second place GTC car. So he's under no pressure as it stands at the moment. He's staying out of the GTO battle and just keeping his own powder dry in that car. There is the championship leaders, the number 44 car, and behind the wheel this time it is Steve Ruston. John Whitehouse did the sprint race yesterday, and he's having a great fight with 79 there of Callum Jenkins. Sander Mortensen coming down, actually catching by the looks of it Nigel Mustall in that big GTR. And Rob Young, and he was looking up the inside of the 24 car of Brendan Aree, but couldn't quite do it as he came down Hanger Strain in towards Stowe and just tucked himself back underneath. And we've got the change has made. The number 33 car has made it through there. We didn't quite see it happen, but for now, look at this. Bob Berridge is coming back at him as they go under the bridge along the Wellington Straight. The left-hander at Brooklands. Is he going to look up the inside? He's certainly looking, but he's not making it stick at the moment. That means a very tight right-hand line there taken by Seamus Jennings. He does not want to let that Volvo through. Such a pair of quick cars, these two. Good to see that Seamus resolved the issues that put him out of the pit stop race yesterday. And there is Brendan Reeve ahead of the number 17 car of Rob Young. And it's his turn to do the sprint race today, and he's trying desperately to get back ahead of the American Brendan in that black, white and red McLaren. There is 79 Callum Jenkins at the wheel of that car, and he's ahead of Brent Millage. Brent Millage has actually got ahead of Steve Ruston as it stands at the moment. David Franklin had a torrid day yesterday as well, but thankfully they've got the parts they needed, and he's back out and racing. Fingers crossed that it will be a better day for him. Chris Murphy, last year's champion in that 72 Aston Martin, he's trying desperately to get back onto terms in that GTH battle. They're all sort of congregated together somewhat. Talk about congregated together. There's your GTB leader in that number 3, Marcus Mantis. He's looking up the inside of Nigel Mustall. That's not a sight you would see very often, is it? The big Nissan GTR of Nigel Mustall having to keep that Marcus Mantis behind him. Now that looked a bit loose, didn't it, for Bob Berridge coming through there, through Brooklands and into Luffield, but he kept it together. Nick Moss is having a great debut weekend in that number 25 McLaren. He's already taken a sprint race win yesterday. He's in the lead of GTH as it stands today as well for the sprint race. Is he going to make it 2 out of 2 in the sprint format at least? But he's not going to get it his own way, judging by everybody else fighting it out in that GTH. It's really tight this weekend. The championship leaders are from GTH, that being John Whitehouse and Steve Rustin in that red and white McLaren you see there, number 44. But they've not had it their own way. Brent Millage is putting some pressure on them now, and I don't think, they're not in the lead of GTH as it stands at the moment. In fact, Chris Murphy is ahead of them as it stands at the moment. Nick Moss is further down the circuit. There is the GTB car, which would, I think by my reckoning, run in second because Sander Mortenson's leading GTB as it stands at the moment. But GTA being led by the 79 car of Callum Jenkins behind the wheel for the sprint race today. So he's keeping his powder dry to try and bring it home. Yesterday it was the double victory by the 66 car of Ivan Milutinovic that we see just there. That Porsche having a great day yesterday. There is Graham Tilley, car number 6. And he is not really able to do anything about the incredibly quick number 55 John Seal, but equally no one's able to really put some pressure on him. Those two are having their own fight behind him. Clean piece of track still for the number 13 car of Tom Webb. And now we got another lunge by Sander Morton. He's locked up. That looks like the right-hander of Village as they then will go through the tight left hand of the loop. And he's got that mantis, the praying mantis, tamed again there as it got rather wild and out of shape trying to make a lunge on that Nissan GTR. He's having a whale of a time and doing a fantastic job for the second time. On to the final lap we go, and it's finishing as it started with these two absolutely glued together, just various ways round as we've gone through, and it is Seamus Jennings, number 33, that sits there with that third place. So that will be the third step of the podium in GTO for him at the moment, but Bob Berridge has got other ideas in that incredible number 77 Volvo S60 through the left-hander and the tight right-hander of Club onto the straight past the new wing pit straights that the Formula 1 carriages when the F1 circus is in town. But here comes John Seal rounding the final few corners. Going to try and see it through to yet another checkered flag and another victory. Here he comes. There's the checkered flag. A fantastic win there for John Seal. An absolute country mile by 11 seconds in the end. And he still had to work hard to make that gap. Graham Tilley coming home in second place. Seamus Jennings, Bob Berridge and Tom Webb wins GTC comfortably from Lucky Christopher. Sander Mortensen, great GTB win. GTH won by Nick Moss again in 9th place overall, so a great job there for him. Second place in GTH, great job by Brendan Arib as well. Josh Jackson third in that. GTA won by Callum Jenkins, with Ivan Milutinovic coming home second in GTA. And great fights through the entire field, and no wonder they look happy up on that podium. Now we've just got the little matter of the pit stop race to look forward to next.
There's been a bit of a shift around on the grid since the last race, but the mean green Lamborghini of John Seal remains on pole position. It's endurance time, so are you sitting comfortably? Let's go racing.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm not sure it's possible to sit comfortably when the excitement builds like this for the pit stop race now. So it's 50 minutes, and John Seal does indeed have pole position, this time with Seamus Jennings for company. Graham Tilley, Bob Berridge on row 2, Tom Webb, Lucky Christopher, Sander Mortensen and Nigel Mustall. 5th row is Nick Moss and Matt Le Breton. On the 6th row, we've got Brendan Arib and John Whitehouse, Chris Murphy and Callum Jenkins on row 7, Simon Orange and Brent Millage, David Franklin and Steve Burt on the 9th row. Ivan Milutinovic and James Simons should have been on the 10th row, but he's got a problem with that Evora. Mal Sanford on the 11th row, and actually alongside him, thankfully after repairing their car, is the number 18 Ferrari of Gary Redman. So they've worked very, very hard to get that car back out after this morning's first corner incident. Right, so here we go, 50 minutes of racing with a pit stop thrown in, and John Seal desperate to make this pole position count, and he has done exactly that, because tucking in behind him goes Seamus Jennings, side by side for the two GTC cars, but the inside line was taken by Tom Webb in that blue number 13 Lamborghini, and he's forced Lucky Christopher wide, and that has actually dropped him back a little bit at the moment through the very rapid Maggots and Beckett section of the Silverstone GP circuit. And look at that coming through the field. Both Ginettas, both Team Hard Ginettas there fighting with each other, but through the field as well. And it's the 21 car of Simon Orange that has the nod at the moment over 79 Callum Jenkins. Different groups, Callum Jenkins GTA, GTH for Simon Orange in the 21. And they're still going at it all the way down Hanger Straight in towards the right-hander of Stowe, side by side in fact, but the inside line's going to be taken by 21 Simon Orange, and he keeps the power down, and down through the Vale they go. You can see in the background that Gary Redman, number 18, the red, white and green Ferrari, still fighting. And talking about fighting, look at the two Ginettas. They're still side by side as they got to the end of the Vale in towards Club, but I think they stayed in the same order somehow. At the moment, it looks like John Seal's trying to pedal away from the rest of the field as quickly as possible, just as Gary Redman's trying to get through the field just as quickly as possible. His next target is the number 17 car, Matt Le Breton at the wheel of that purple and luminous yellow McLaren this time round. Let me guess, is that the Team Hard Ginettas? Yes, it is. They're still going side by side, and it's still the 21 GTH car of Simon Orange. Wow, this is one heck of a battle, but I'd imagine Team Hard have got their hearts in their mouth at the moment, but it's working okay so far, so don't panic. Sander Mortensen in the background there, he is staying with the GTC cars ahead of him. That is a very old GTB car, and he's doing wondrous things there. It's only the second time he's racing this car. And a spin there for the 21 car. Simon Orange, what a shame, he'd been fighting so well. And now we've got Matt Le Breton up the inside of Brent Millage, and he's through. That's at the loop, isn't it? And trying to follow him through goes the number 12 car of Steve Burt, but not able to do it, so he tucks himself, that Aston Martin, behind the Porsche Cayman of Brent Millage, but that was very, very close. There is the repaired Gary Redman number 18 car. Round Luffield he goes, ready to complete yet another lap, just ahead of a slightly errant by the looks of it there. Number 24, Brendan Ariba, certainly a different line. There is the 66 car of Ivan Milutinovic, and through comes the 21 car. Nice move up the inside by the GTH car of Simon Orange. Different groups again, but he still had to make that move and did a good job. Brent Millage has now got Callum Jenkins, number 79, trying to get through, and wow, round the outside. What a fantastic move that was. And nice and cleanly done there. And as they make their way down Hanger Straight, that was a slightly unusual place to do it, but powered his way around the outside. I don't know whether it's a slight issue for Brent. Probably not, because he's now trying to come back up the inside of Callum Jenkins, but Callum just sweeps across the nose, taking the fastest line round through Stowe. And it's David Franklin that's now catching up and trying to challenge the fellow Porsche of Brent Millage. Here is Graham Tilley, sort of mirrors largely full of the GTC car of Tom Webb, again trying to do a giant killing act as they came down Hanger Straight there, but not able to close in just yet. Ooh, just a slightly wiggle of the nose there by the number 18 Gary Redmond Ferrari as he's closing in on the Balfe Motorsport number 25 McLaren of Nick Moss. And yes, I was about to say he should be able to get through on the start-finish straight, and he's done exactly that. Gets the power down, through he goes. Different classes, GTC for the number 18 car, and of course a GTH car with Nick Moss at the wheel of that McLaren, so you'd expect him to do it. Oh, now we've got the lappery going on, and Graham Tilley is trying to keep the number 13 car behind him. Again, different groups, but doesn't matter, and just compromised there on the exit. Nothing wrong by the back markers, but just wrong place, wrong time. Tilley just couldn't get the power down quick enough, but he's done it. He's passed David Franklin now in the 911 Porsche at the moment. And very wide there through the right-hander of Brooklands, and that meant that he couldn't really have a look up the inside of Graham Tilley through the left-hander of Brooklands, the right-hander of Luffield. So he just sits himself behind as it stands at the moment. Massive lead for John Seal, isn't it, at the moment? Look at this great... here is the worst-case scenario now, is that these two, it's not just about when you encounter back markers. The worst case is battling back markers side by side. Through goes Tom Webb, and he gets past Graham Tilley. Now they've got to pick their way through these battling back markers. They go one way, past the number 79 car they go, and there's the 17, and there's contact. I don't think that Graham Tilley realised that the number 17 McLaren had got past the 79 Ginetta of Callum Jenkins. He was aware that he'd got past the Ginetta, swept across ready to take the racing line for Stowe, and all of a sudden, unbeknownst to him, the 17 car had made the move through as well. That is a real shame. Matt Le Breton took it a real blow to the nose there, basically, on his car, and we've got to hope that both of those cars are able to continue. Certainly Graham Tilley's still going as it stands at the moment, and Tom Webb gets to breathe some fresh air. Into the pits comes John Seal, and this time he's handing over to Marcus Clutton for the second half of the race. And there is Graham Tilley. No, he isn't okay. That's a puncture at the very least. 3 wheels on his wagon as it stands at the moment, as Marcus Clutton jumps into the 55 car. There goes Fulvio Mussi now at the wheel of the number 18. Brendan Reed wanted to... Oh no, and a safety car. This is always a nightmare situation when you have the safety car coming out at the point where people are taking their pit stops. The field is now going to get closed up together, so basically the ones that haven't pitted are going to get, in effect, a free pit stop because they're a lap ahead. Ooh, well done, Nick Moss, for waiting when he just saw that Frank Mortensen in number 3 was going. There's Ivan Militonovic, number 66, being released. David Franklin still being looked at. The wheels being tightened, good, on the number 13 car, Tom Webb. And we're back underway, racing again as they're all gaggled together with release. But there, look, at the back is the number 33 car of Seamus Jennings. He is a lap ahead of the lead cars of that gaggle, which, of course, at the moment is now Marcus Clutton. But he's a lap behind, so it means that it is that dreaded free pit stop for the ones that hadn't stopped. It's just nothing you can do in those situations. Ooh, great move there by Fulvio Mussi, the pro driver at the wheel of that number 18 now, just scything through the field. Adam Carroll now at the wheel of the 27 Ferrari there, pulling away from Brendan Arib. 23, that is actually Craig Dolby at the wheel of that. Nigel Mustill was poorly, so didn't start the race, but Craig Dolby jumped in at the point of the pit stops. There is 21 still trying to fight through. That will now be Josh Jackson at the wheel of that one, fighting with David Franklin, the 911 Porsche. And of course Marcus... Oh, very, very wide there for Fulvio Mussi. Oh, it looked like there was a bit of contact there. I'm not sure whether the 17 car, Rob Young, even saw that the lead car was coming through there and just swept across his nose. And Seamus Jennings just threw the anchors out the back, realising there's no point. That's another one that's benefited. Tom Webb has benefited from when the safety car came out. So he is actually fighting directly second on the road overall. Now Seamus Jennings does get past the number 17 McLaren, thankfully. So that's okay. He's through. Brent Millage is his next target now, 54 Porsche Cayman. Putting a lap on it. Of course, it might be a bit confusing for these drivers, not realising that these cars are putting a lap on them. And wow, Tom Webb just had to jink towards the side. Great awareness by Tom Webb there to see that one coming. Down the Wellington Straight, the left-hander of Brooklands, and then the long, never-ending right-hand sweep of Luffield. Goes Seamus Jennings with that blue number 13 Lamborghini closing down on him. He just can't shake that pesky GTC car. The GTC Lamborghini is not as quick in a straight... is as quick as the GT3 number 55 Lamborghini in a straight line in a lot of instances, but that GT3 55 car of John Seal & Co. is able to take the corners a lot quicker. There's Frank Mortensen now at the wheel of the number 3 Marcus Matt. Oh no, David Frankland. His bad luck this weekend continues. Another one with 3 wheels on his wagon. And this is a great fight going on now at the lead. They're both leading their respective groups, but they're both racers. They don't care. They want to fight. Coming down through the Vale now by the looks of it. Ooh, and Tom Webb was trying to show his nose up towards the left-hander, but that's a very tight part of the circuit. So he's now trying to get the power down through club onto the international start-finish straight. Oh, and he's just dropped the tail end out. He got on the power a little bit too soon, I would imagine, there onto the marbles. Spun the rear end round. Is he going to be able to get going? It looks like he should do, unless there's a cause or effect argument. Last lap, here we go, and he just needs to make sure he stays in the lead of GTC. Doesn't matter about the overall race, but Seamus Jennings, here he comes. Just behind him is Adam Carroll, but that doesn't matter for him. He's coming round to take the checkered flag and takes a GTO, an overall victory. He's going to be absolutely delighted with that one, there's no question. So it is the 33 car of Seamus Jennings takes the win. Second place is Tom Webb, which means he also takes GTC. John Seal comes home in third. Gary Redman up to 4th place overall. Lucky Christopher. Nick Moss wins GTH in 6th. 7th is Sander Mortensen and wins GTB. In 8th position was Brendan Reeve, John Whitehouse, Steve Burt, Simon Orange, Brent Millage. 13th place and GTA victory goes to the 79 car of Nick Scott Dickinson and Callum Jenkins. Ivan Militonovic and Mal Samford rounds out your finishers. Fantastic race, slightly kiboshed by the safety car. A few lost out, a few gained. The nature of racing, but still happy drivers there on the podium and spraying the champagne. What has that done to the championship? Well, they arrived here as champions, leading the championship, and they still are. 370 points to the 44 McLaren of Steve Rustin and John Whitehouse. Lucky Christopher and Adam Carroll in second. John Seal, Jamie Stanley in third place now. Tom and James Webb in fourth. Chris Prosser and Steve Chandler 5th place. Rounding out the top 6, Josh Jackson and Sam Randon in the Team Hard Racing.
Well, that's it from Silverstone. I hope you enjoyed that nail-biting finish and all the racing from this iconic track. We're going to be at another one next time, Brands Hatch. But until then, for now, it's goodbye from the GT Cup.